What up? It's ACC Baseball Etc, part of the D1 Baseball Podcast Network, joining you on a Monday after weekend 4 of the college baseball season. Bradley Smart is here. I'm Daron Vaught. I think, Bradley, I don't always go back and listen to us when we talk about things, but every now and then I just want to I think I said something a certain way, but I'm not 100% sure. So I want to go back and kind of check myself and be like, okay, did I really present this information the way that I wanted to? So I did that a couple of times over the past maybe 2 weeks. And we've been dealing with this crossover for me where there's basketball, baseball overlap. Today's the first day of no overlap. And I got to say, I feel like I'm already giving this a little bit more enthusiasm than I did for the past maybe 3 or 4 shows. So I'm excited to be all in. I'm excited to talk some ACC baseball because we had conference games for the first time over the weekend, had some non-conference series as well that certainly were interesting in their own ways. So here we go. And you were in my neck of the woods, and I was not because I was busy finishing up basketball stuff. So I see you got the Durham Bulls cap. That's a great addition to the wardrobe. How was your time in the great state of North Carolina?
Yeah, it was. Well, first, I'm great you're all in now because this is a great time to be all in. Obviously, we just had 10 of the 16 in ACC play, and everyone's in it this week. So good timing. And then found this at a thrift store when I was down in Durham, and I ended up only getting to see 2 games because there was all kinds of weird scheduling. There was rain on Sunday, but I saw 2 really good games. I got to see Virginia kind of show everyone what Virginia is offensively and on the mound, and then I saw a really interesting Duke team, and they ended up losing that weekend series, but they really battled back at the end, and I was impressed with sort of how they came back because it wasn't a great game for them on Saturday for the bulk of that. But I think they were pretty interesting to watch, and obviously I really like Notre Dame. They ended up taking that series, but it was a good weekend. I would say it was nice to see four teams for sure.
Yeah, considering it was only 2 days of the weekend basically for you, to see 4 different teams is pretty solid. I want to start with Virginia. They rocketed into our D1 Baseball Top 25 rankings as of this morning, number 14. That's their debut. But I think it's with good reason. I do not know how often I said this in an official capacity, so maybe this requires a little bit more listening back to myself and to us over the span of the preseason. I have told anyone who will listen, I think Virginia's an Omaha team this year. There's something about it. The collection of talent is obviously a huge part of that. We have known that they were capable of a weekend like this, capable of being a team like this. And all due respect to Duke's baseball program and their athletic department, this coaching staff leveled up in terms of what they were going to be able to do, resources they were going to have at their disposal. That matters. And I, from a long time ago, have been a staunch believer in Chris Pollard and his coaching staff. This was a huge weekend for them for obvious reasons. You get production up and down the lineup. Man, the freshman arms are really, really good. I like this team a lot, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Virginia and the rankings, and obviously people see, I'm not in the room on those rankings, but I know what was sort of keeping Virginia out was a weaker schedule and sort of those questions around, do they have enough pitching? What does the pitching staff look like? And the first few weeks, while they were winning, there were still some questions there. Like Henry Zakowski didn't really get off to a great start. But what I've been so impressed with and what really showed out, against North Carolina was just adjustments they can make. Like Zakowski tweaks his mechanics. He looks phenomenal. Just able to do that on the fly as a sophomore. And then in the lineup, you're going up against Jason DeCaro, one of the top pitchers in the country, arguably at times. And they have a very well-defined approach. They're like, okay, we know you throw 60+% fastballs. We're not going to let you do that, because if you throw fastballs in the zone, that's what we're hunting. We're going to get you off of that. And that's what they did, like, really effectively, and just cruise. And then, the next day they come out and they win 9-2, and they should have probably swept. Credit to North Carolina. That takes some guts to, you get outscored 13-3, 9-2. You're losing 5-1 out of the gate to wrap up a doubleheader, and it's like, man, you could just fold here. But I do think it was encouraging for North Carolina to come back, not just that one time, not just to tie it, at 5-5, but then they go down in the 9th, they tie it. They go down in the 12th, they tie it, and then walk it off. So I think North Carolina's fine. I'm not too worried about them. I think it was, more of a credit to Virginia's lineup, what they were able to do to that North Carolina rotation.
It strikes me as very we talk about game plans more in other sports than we do baseball. I think there are, individual scouts, of course, get a lot of the emphasis in baseball because it's a lot of individual on individual matchups. But hearing Chris Pollard talk after, I think it was after the first game of the series, about their approach controlling the zone and jumping on fastballs. And it just struck me as, I know I'm just coming off of a basketball season, but like going into every game, it's, hey, this team does this well. How do you plan to counter that? And it was just very holistic in the way that it sounded for Chris Pollard, in a way that simplifies things. And for a group of individuals trying to have collective efforts that turn into a team performance, I think from a coaching perspective, and I would defer to the coaches that we talk to and talk about so often, because they're the best of anybody at this sort of thing. But to me, it seems that the simpler the message and the game plan can be, the easier it's going to be to absorb for an entire team, an entire lineup, and then to execute on for an entire lineup. And I know that sounds probably kind of obvious, but that's what struck me about watching the performance and then hearing what the coaching staff was saying about it for Virginia.
Yeah, and you look at a guy like Noah Murray, who kind of had a slower stretch there for a bit, and he's moved to third base, like kind of settling in. They go to a batting cage the morning, Friday morning. He makes an adjustment. He's there with Eric Tyler, who just a phenomenal coach. Like, sky's the limit with that guy. But he makes an adjustment, and then Noah Murray has a big weekend. And he talked a lot post game. He's like, we know exactly what we're looking for when we go up there, and we're just executing. And if we don't, we know the guy behind us is going to pick us up. The guy behind him was Zach Jackson, who hit 2 home runs this weekend. The guy in front of him, you have Harrison Didowick, who homers, makes a great catch in the outfield, just continues to play the way we're kind of hoping. Okay, yeah, let's see Harrison Didowick get back to what makes him great. And then you have Sam Harris just annihilating balls. That is a strong dude. And then, of course, you have Becker and Gracia. Like, I just talked about a bunch of hitters that had really good weekends, and the top 2 guys in the order are all-American caliber players. So that's the reason Virginia, the ceiling is so high. And I think when you look at what Zakowski did, you look at what Max Stammel did, you mentioned the freshman arms, like, they were not phased. And the, quality of stuff they had was just really impressive. And obviously that third game didn't go Virginia's way, but it very well could have. And I think they're going to be a really tough opponent in the ACC this year.
Yeah. I wanted to use Noah Yoder as the example for the young arms. Jack DeLongchamp, our guy, will join us at some point this season. We're going to talk about walk-up music. This is kind of just like a throwaway comment, but you can feel free to consider it a throwaway comment. But I think it matters. And to me, it's kind of telling. Noah Yoder walks out to Erica Badu, which is like, probably means he's the coolest dude in the ACC from a college baseball standpoint. B, like, it seems to me he's a guy that is not all that worried what other people think, very comfortable with himself. And as an arm on this team, you add that to, oh, I can run it up into the high 90s and have a slider that's in the high 80s that'll make you look silly. Like what a wonderful recipe for a human and a baseball player at that age. Like, holy crap. So I think there's an attitude with the freshman class that is not freshman like with him, and certainly they've got others who are included in what I'm talking about. But with Yoder, I remember perusing through the music lists from the teams, and I was like, man, Erica, but dude, that takes a dude that like knows what he's about, I think. So to me, it's emblematic of what he is and what the freshman arms on this team are.
Yeah, no, Yoder, electric stuff. And, another freshman arm, North Carolina, every year it seems like they have, obviously last year was McDuffie, Lynch, Seagraves, they had DeCaro. Like, they have freshmen that play big roles. We saw that with Caden Glauber, 5 1/3, 2 runs, 1 earned, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts. So that's a name to keep an eye on. Obviously, North Carolina is never afraid to lean on first-year arms, and I think that type of performance, just stock is rising for him. So yeah, I was really impressed with all the freshmen that threw for both sides really this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I'm not all that worried about North Carolina. Just an instance of good on good where one side had the right idea and had the right plan and executed really, really well. So those are the takeaways, I guess, for from that series. Moving to Notre Dame Duke. I'm so in on Notre Dame. We've talked about it for a couple of weeks. We saw them at the Jacks Classic. Drew Birkland hits and robs a home run moments apart. Jack Riddell is Jack Riddell. Mark Quattrani is up to this point one of the best hitters in the league. Noah Coy continues to be phenomenal at shortstop. I'm so impressed by him. And Ty Uber is a candidate for pitcher of the week and gave them a really, really good start in a rubber match on Sunday that, it's a series that we've talked about, sort of the trajectory for Notre Dame. If they're going to be what we think they are capable of being, that's a series you got to come out on top in. And a 2-0 game on Sunday where they exercised some real stones down the stretch, getting out of a couple of jams to keep it at a shutout and keep it at a 2-run game. Like, it's not just the names that I mentioned. There's a collective feel for Sean Stifler's group there that I just think they have hit a stride and they are all on the same page, and it's working for them. And I'm in. I think this is a regional team and a good one at that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most encouraging thing was how they responded to Saturday. So I see them, Caden Kroll looked great. That was kind of lost in the loss to Duke. 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. Ocean Lee looked really good as well, just death by changeups. And then Noah Rooney cruises through the first 5 guys he faces, and then Duke just stacks hits and ends up walking it off. And it's like they went from, feeling like they're pretty comfortable, about to take a road series to, oh man, we have to play, a Sunday rubber match now. But I was really impressed that you mentioned Stones. They left 12 Duke guys on base in a 2-0 win 12 times. And there were guys on third, bases were loaded. Like, it was just tense moment after tense moment. And what was really impressive was Rooney came back and executed, after that, sort of blown save opportunity. So, yeah, I really like this Irish team. Drew Birkland's just exactly what, they said he was going to be. Like, all fall, they were like, this guy's going to be our leadoff hitter. He's going to be just like an engine for us. He's going to play great defense. And he's doing all those things. And then you start stacking in, all the sort of younger guys behind him. And it's like, yeah, I really like this recipe for Notre Dame. So yeah, it's a big weekend for them. For Duke, that's tough. Like that's a winnable game on Sunday for them. I think we can see, you can kind of see there's a lot of sort of swing and miss and some bad approach in big moments, which happens when you're in an ACC rubber match. You're trying to get that big hit, especially after you had that win on Saturday. And I think that's something that they're going to have to work through because they don't have that big offensive presence of Cider Cannon, and they have a lot of good pieces. And I really like the way their arms throughout the weekend. Obviously, tough one on Friday, but the next 2 days really limited Notre Dame's offense. So I think Duke will be all right. I think it's just going to be a lot of learning, and that kind of seems to be the message from that staff as well.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot. We weren't sure what we were going to get out of Duke, and a week into ACC play now, I know for sure we are going to get competitive out of Duke. Like they're especially on the mound. I think they're gonna compete week in and week out. Obviously, the Cider Cannon injury, we did not know at the time that we talked last week for our preview, and then it's revealed that he's going to miss at least 8 weeks with his injury. That's a bummer, but at the same time, man, like the team was amongst the nation's leaders in stolen bases. The team had been hitting pretty well in the non-conference. So they're going to be feisty in ACC play. To circle back on Notre Dame, this is not the first weekend we've seen them have that kind of resolve that you mentioned, the bounce back after Saturday. If you remember in Jacksonville, it was the Riddell start where he went 6 perfect that they lost that game. So to bounce back and, maybe glossing over a loss to LSU in between, but like the bounce back from that to having to fight your way for an extra innings walk-off win to close out your weekend. That's the kind of thing that we've seen from Notre Dame most of the season to this point. So yeah, I think a lot of that team, and I'm excited to get them again in person at some point. I think I've got them in Raleigh at NC State for a couple of games down the road here, but yeah, that's I come out of this weekend very impressed by them. I'll give you the keys to the car here. Where would you like to go next?
We would let's head down to Coral Gables, where Boston College avenged the 2016 Super Regional defeat and won their first ever series in Coral Gables against a Miami side that, if you look at the numbers from this series, just sort of like offensively, like Miami out hit them. I'm pretty sure Boston College had 7 errors, and Boston College took 2 or 3. And just like a really gritty kind of grinded out bullpen heavy performance because they didn't really get much from any of their starters. But if you remove one sort of bad outing out of the gate in the finale, Boston College's bullpen, not including Gavin Soares, had 19 strikeouts over 17 2/3 innings, 1 run allowed without their top reliever. That's gutsy, and that deserves a tip of the cap. And Nick Wang drives in 7 over 3 games and kind of leaves Miami in a weird spot. Like they're kind of sleepwalking a bit right now, which is something to kind of monitor. They're obviously a little banged up, but that felt like a series that they should have been able to take more advantage of the mistakes, but that bullpen did not look great for the Canes.
Yeah, I have reasons to be concerned. I have reasons that concern me, I should say, about Miami. I also have reasons that make me not as concerned. Like, again, this was the 10th team in the ACC standings at the end of last year, right? Or they were 9th. They and Louisville were right there. I think Miami was 10th, right? They were young and got better as the season went on, and of course had a nice run in the postseason. to a super regional. Um, I don't know. I don't know that I'm as worried about them because, like, I will see things that give me cause for concern, and then remind myself of that. But the reality is, a year better with the additions that they made, they certainly don't hold ninth or 10th in the conference as the expectation for this year, even though at ninth or 10th in the conference, you can still be a pretty good team. So I think maybe in trying to align my expectations with theirs to some degree, I'm a little concerned because I think they could be around about the same kind of quality team that they were last year, and I know that's not the MO. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think what concerns me is it's we're following the same script, sort of. Like last year, they beat up on their non-con, similar schedule. Then they go into the Florida series, and it's like, oh man, like this is much better pitching. Offense struggles. They lose 2 or 3, and then it was kind of up and down for a while. Like there were points last year where I remember there were like I'd get replies on tweets, talking about Ardiaga getting fired. Like people were not happy with the state of the program. And then, yeah, they got hot and they won 10 ACC games in a row. I think part of the issue I have is like, that shouldn't be the path for this team talent wise. Like, yes, you lose Galvin, but Devovic went 5 for 11 with 2 more home runs. So like, you can't look at the weekend you just had and say, well, if we had Galvin, we might've won. It's like, well, no, you needed the other guys to produce more because the left fielder you had was producing. And so I think it's just interesting to kind of see, I think Siskar and Evans are going to give him, a really good chance in most weekends. Like that's a good starting point, but man, they got to get help in the bullpen. They were winning 7-4 in the 8th inning of the opener. They end up losing, in 11 innings. Then they have to fight off a rally the next day. That game gets really close. And then the third one, they, fell behind early and couldn't, keep it close. So I think that's something I am concerned about. Like they're getting reinforcements, but what if those reinforcements aren't as helpful as they want? Like it's hard to come back from an injury, especially like both of those guys, and Menendez and Roberts. So Miami's definitely, they're hovering a bit for me. Obviously they're out of the rankings now. They're kind of going into prove it mode, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, for BC, I think this is what they're going to do. Like, if you're an ACC team thinking that you're just going to roll through Boston College because you know what the program is and how under-resourced it's been over years and years, hopefully you don't feel that way after the Mike Gambino era because his team's had a way of sneaking up on you as well. But in case you still do, it's going to be the same under Todd Interdonato. They're going to give themselves chances to win even if they are not the better team in a series. So I look, I know we are both believers in Donato and what he's doing there. So I think it's just kind of that's an identity win for them over the weekend.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say though, is like, there were parts of that weekend where they were, running into outs on the base pass, getting picked off, making the wrong reads on pass balls. The starters, struggling with like that was not BC's identity, which is what makes this series win even more impressive because they found a way despite, kind of playing themselves. Like the reason they dug a big hole on Friday was because they came out of the gates just not playing very sharp. And so I think it was really impressive that they were able to win 2 games and, get the performances that they needed. Sean Hart and Kyle Kipp, like you can look at those 2 and say, there's a big reason why they won. Obviously Wang, 7 RBIs. Cesar Gonzalez had a big, offensive day and threw 3 shutout innings. So it's just, a very talented 2-way guy who's a catcher, which is crazy. But, Hart goes 3 scoreless. That's really encouraging to see him sort of at that level. And then Kip goes 4 scoreless, in the finale. So I think it was really positive, obviously, to go into Miami and take a ranked road series. I also think that's not the best Boston College can be, like not even close. And so I think that's really encouraging as well for them to kind of say, okay, yeah, we took 2 or 3, but we can be a lot better than that, which is promising.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm going to quickly interject here with something totally off the radar. Did you happen to see NC State played a non-conference series? They played Lafayette. They rolled. Did you see the Wolfpack's Andrew Wiggins performing the national anthem prior to one of their games on the saxophone?
I did see that.
Awesome.
Do have to clarify one thing for our Pards Extra fans. Lafayette hammered their way past NC State in the opener.
Yes.
Don't want to discredit the Leopards there. 6 home runs, including a grand slam. Two different guys had 2 home runs. So that was a weird one. NC State was without Ryan Marone. They responded admirably. But yeah, the national anthem was, I think I watched that twice. It was good stuff.
Incredible. And like as someone in my youth, I played the alto saxophone. Gave it up because I was not ready to embrace my nerdness and be a band kid, I think.
I don't think I would have guessed that.
No,
for your instrument. I really don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have guessed, but I don't think it would have been that.
Saxophone. That was me. So mad respect for Andrew Wiggins, who also has had a good season for them to this point. So really cool to see. Really, really cool to see that. Florida State over Northern Kentucky. Noah Sheffield did some fun things. We've talked a lot about who's next in that lineup behind Miles Bailey. And I mentioned earlier in the season that like Florida State always has guys who over-index on what we think they're going to be and guys who become dudes. It seems to me like Sheffield is becoming that. He had a home run earlier and he got the viral attention of his batting stance, and it was kind of like all over social media. You could see, guess who this guy's dad is? But he stole home in this series as well. He's capable of incredible things. So if there's any sort of consistent execution at all, like that's a serious dude for them.
Yeah, and he's been one of their more consistent guys. Yeah. But I think this was obviously a really nice week for Florida State. You know, they obviously crushed Mercer, and that contributes, but 66-19 in 5 wins. But you get Braden Dowd back. He homers twice. Mm-hmm. So that's a great sign. John Stutzer had a really big weekend, which is a very, very good sign, because I think the ideal lineup sees, some combination of Dowd, Stutzer, Bailey, Sheffield in some, mix. Bailey homered twice. He'd gone a whopping 6 games without a long ball. Mendez took a no-hitter into the 6th, struck out 12. Like, this is a very good team. And I think the offense we're starting to see, what that's going to look like. And it could be really scary. And I think that rotation and bullpen also looks really good. Chris Kinnear has looked unbelievable to start the year. I think he had 4 scoreless with 4 strikeouts. Like, you face Mendez and then you get that. Not fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was impressed with Florida State's weekend, because Northern Kentucky's also, like, they're usually a player in the Horizon League. Like, good offenses, they'll hang around. And we've seen what, like in the SEC, there's been some, Horizon League upsets in that department. So sort of good to see Florida State kind of just cruise through there.
Yeah. We do have an ACC series that we have not mentioned. Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. Any surprises there for you?
I think it was Virginia Tech's response, because they got boat raced the first 2 games. I mean, you get outscored, what was it, 30? Let me see. Yeah, 30-6 in your first 2 ACC games. You lost 6 in a row. Like, that is tough. That is really hard to come back from. But they do. They dig deep. They're in a tight game with Georgia Tech. They're tied 6-6, going into the final, I think, 3 innings. And they put up 6 no, they're trailing 6-3. I'm mixing up the order here. But anyway, they put up 6 runs, and they end up, Preston Crowell looks like the Preston Crowell I saw in the fall and we saw in week 1. he goes 3 perfect innings in relief to just shut down that Georgia Tech offense, which is not easy. Really, no one else on the staff had done that the whole weekend. So it was really impressive to see Crowell do that. It was good to see Sam Grube hitting again. Ethan Ball continues to rake. So I think for Georgia Tech, it's hey, like, we got to figure out Sundays, because Cooper Underwood again was not particularly sharp, and the bullpen, Caden Campbell pitched really well, but there was some sort of issues in there. Other than that, it's like they're going to be able to win a lot of series. They're going to win a lot of 2 of 3, if not, sweep. But I do think they need to figure out sort of maybe Underwood needs to go to midweeks for a bit, figure that out. But I think the bigger story for me was, we know Georgia Tech's offense is good, but Virginia Tech getting going was a good thing to see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And honestly, kudos to Virginia Tech. Like there are series where teams like them, who are just fighting for a spot when it comes regional time or whenever that is, right? You're going to need to save the series and get a game, because the best of the best in the ACC is so good. You're going to have to fight and scratch and claw your way to get one of the 3. So that, to me, again, you drop the first 2. It's dominant in favor of Georgia Tech, but that feels like a win that could go a long way for them.
Yeah, you survive in the ACC. You put yourself in position by not getting swept.
Yeah.
You can lose series. You're going to lose series. You're going to win series. Just, you can't get swept multiple times. Like, then you're digging a hole that's kind of tough to get out of.
Yeah.
So that was encouraging. Speaking of sweeps,
I was about
to
use the
ACC
same
series.
segue, Bradley. You're such a pro.
Dialed in. Wake Forest, 15 wins in a row. And what's crazy about that stretch, this Stanford series was really uncomfortable for them. Like, offensively, it wasn't. They kind of put up a lot of offense, but Stanford kept hanging around. And outside of Blake Morningstar's gem on Friday, Stanford put up a lot of offense against, Wake's arms. But I think it was, it kind of just speaks to what the Deacons can, like, the Deacs offense can do. Like, Luke Costello, 3 home runs in the doubleheader. They've, just battled injuries and, like, rotated guys in and out. And, like, every time someone's healthy, something else goes wrong. Like, someone takes a, ball off a knee or jams their finger sliding into a base. And it's like, oh, he's day to day, can't play. Let's rotate in, this freshman and all this different things. And they hit 387 with 13 extra base hits this weekend. So even when their pitching staff wasn't at its best, they have the offense to win. And I think we're going to see more often than not, the pitching staff looks better than that. And that combination is going to be really hard.
Yeah, we've said it time and again, man. The ceiling for Wake Forest is so freaking high. Like, and the arms have a lot to do with that. But again, when the offense delivers, and it's not just Cade Lewis, it's going to hum and it's going to look good. And Javar Williams has been fantastic at the top of the order. Dalton Wentz obviously is a piece in that. Them getting Luke Costello back is huge. You still have Austin Hawk, who's missed most of the year, to kind of get him going. And you've got
Austin Torres.
Yeah, Torres
played. One game maybe.
Yeah, we haven't really seen him. And Andrew Costello, the younger of the two, is just kind of like biding his time as an early enrollment freshman. So, like, he's going to contribute. He's going to be a piece of, I think, what this team ultimately is. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we get to the postseason and he's a staple in the lineup. There's just a lot of talent there. There's a lot of talent. And for Stanford, it's getting early. It's getting late early. It's
getting early.
It's getting late early.
It is early.
It is, like, we gotta start to see something.
Yeah, I will say though, like, what they did against the Wake pitching staff, that was something. What's kind of got to be maddening at this point is, when they split with, I think it was not Fullerton, or Fullerton.
Yeah, they split the 4 games
offense.
with Fullerton.
Yeah, offense non-existent for the most part. Like I think it was 4 one-run games. No one scored more than 6 maybe. And the pitching staff really impressed. And then, you know, you go into Fresno, you go into that Fresno State series and it's like, okay, the bats are like kind of getting better, but the pitching staff's regressing. And then you go into Wake and the pitching staff just cannot get off the field, which speaks to what we just talked about with Wake's lineup. But then the offense really gets going. Like, you know, Charlie Bates hit 2 home runs. Rintaro Sasaki had a really good weekend, 5 for 14, 2 doubles, a home run. Like that's exciting. But now they need to figure out again, it's like the rotation through 8 2/3 innings in 3 games. And they threw like 10 or 11 arms. And most of them got charged with a run or multiple runs. So it's a tough way to start ACC play. And it kind of reminds me, I feel like Notre Dame went to Wake last year. Someone went to Wake first series of the year and it was just uncomfortable. And that kind of reminded me of it. This series was closer than that one, if I remember correctly, but not a great place to play right off the bat for your pitchers.
Yeah, I'm curious now because I vaguely remember something similar. So I'm pulling up Wake's schedule from last year. So bear with me. This is great. Stupendous audio we're doing here.
I really feel like it was Notre Dame. And I feel like they got maybe run ruled twice.
Notre Dame, they got run ruled twice, games 1 and 3. It was 19-5, 6-5, and 11-1. Yeah.
All right. So Stanford did better this year than Notre Dame did last year in that situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, just not a great spot to start. And now they get, this is another good segue. They get Pitt at home. Pitt, like many teams in the ACC, can't stop winning.
Yeah.
You know, they have won 8 straight. Just Lorenzo Carrier, I mean, unbelievable week for him. And it's just been really encouraging to see, you know, Pitt and then by extension, you know, Cal, who's now won 11 in a row. They mopped San Jose State 4-game, or they mopped San Diego 4-game sweep there. So I think it's fun to see, you know, teams wrapping up non-conference really strong going into, you know, kind of prove it ACC weekends.
Do you have Carrier's stat line from the week right in front of you? I know you had the tweet with 1 game left. Where did he finish? Just read this for effect.
Yeah. So over the weekend, he went 10 for 12 with a double, triple, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs. On the week, he went 16 for 19. 16 for 19 with 6 home runs, 24 RBIs. He now leads the ACC in RBIs, unsurprisingly. If he doesn't win ACC Player of the Week, we can just not vote the rest of the year and throw the award out because it won't mean anything.
Easiest vote of my
just
life.
Unbelievable.
I pulled it up as you and I joined the conference room, the whatever, the stream room, whatever you want to call it. Before we started rolling, I pulled it up. Did not look at any of the other names because I knew it was going to be Lorenzo Carrier. Like easiest player of the week vote of my life.
Yeah. I saw someone tweeted out with, you know, it's like when you play MLB The Show on, you know, like rookie or the lowest difficulty and you realize, okay, I think I should probably move up a level.
Yeah. Let's roll this thing up to intermediate or whatever.
Yeah. Just an unbelievable week. Really season. He's hitting 490. Like that's ridiculous. And I think it's just great to see him because, you know, he's battled a lot of injuries. He's always had the prospect pedigree back to when, you know, he was at Miami and even back to when he was deciding to come to campus, you know, Delaware Gatorade High School Player of the Year. So I think it's really great to see Carrier kind of finally, you know, putting together the type of season we kind of have always expected or seen glimpses of. But yeah, just unbelievable weekend. Pitt's a really fun team to follow right now. I'm very excited to see them go into ACC play.
Yeah. I'm such a big fan of Carrier. Man, we when he had that standout performance at the ACC tournament last year, we were doing our live stream post-game shows, and Aaron Fitt and I talked to him after he had a game where he homered. I know I don't remember exactly what he did in the game, but he really showed out. And
5 RBIs, I think.
Yeah, in the tournament last year. You're right. You're right. So getting to have that conversation with him then, he's just a dude with like really good perspective, as you might imagine, because of the sort of circuitous journey he's had. And like you said, we've always thought really highly of his talent and thought he could be one of the better hitters in the ACC. So it's fun to see it pan out. I love that he's doing it at Pitt. It's just it's interesting to go from Miami to Pitt, and because just like there's a big difference in terms of program identity, kind of the typical types of guys that they get. So I love that he's doing it at Pitt and leading them to this kind of success. And then Cal, I admittedly am a little less familiar with them. What do you want to just like?
Got to get familiar.
I got to get familiar.
I keep tweeting out Cal baseball with just like the stock emoji going up.
Yeah.
Because like each weekend I see something where I'm like, yeah, I really think this could play in the ACC. And I mean, it starts with like we knew the rotation going into the year was going to be pretty good because we saw them last year. We talked about this last week where I was like, hey, like that series win over, I think it was Sacramento State, who, by the way, like just took 2 of 3 from LSU. So pretty good series win in hindsight. Going to help Cal in the RPI, most likely. But anyway, so we knew the rotation was going to be pretty good. They play a 4-game series against San Diego, who's always good. Like that's a consistent, West Coast contender. They got off to a bad start last year, but went on a heater in the second half. But you go to a 4-game week, so you got to have someone else start. So you just toss a freshman out there, Otto Espinoza, and he strikes out 10 strikeouts in 7 innings of 1-run ball. Ethan Foley didn't have a great start, but the other 2 have quality starts. And then, Jet Kennedy homers twice. Like that's a freshman. Daniel Murillo and Hideki Prather homer twice. Like the production comes from everywhere. Like I feel like I've barely said Jacob French's name, and it's just, Cade Campbell has a massive week. Then Jet Kennedy gets going. Daniel Murillo, has a walk-off. And then Jordy Lopez. Like there's just so many names, and I'm just so impressed with the response from the guys they lost. We talk about it all the time. They lost 3 top of the lineup guys, and they look better, honestly. Like that, this is a more complete team. Would it help if Jaron Advincula was in there? For sure. But like, I think this team has just got a really good identity right now. They're having fun. They look like they're just, obviously when you're winning, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it. But this is the longest winning streak Cal's had since 1989. They're off to their best start since I think 2015. They love playing at home. They get North Carolina at home next weekend. Like that's a big spot for them. And that's a series, I wish I was out there for, because I think it would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I've been so impressed with Cal so far.
Now that I'm locked in, I gotta see a lot more Cal, because what's interesting is I talk about not being all that familiar, but maybe I am, because half the names you mentioned were key guys for them last year. So, and pieces that I will say, when I had Cal various times and saw them in person last year, pieces that I really liked. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and for Mike New, and like we've talked about it for 2 years now. If the West Coast teams are going to be part of this, we need them to be good. It's just the league's going to be better off if Cal and Stanford are what they typically have been historically as baseball teams, as baseball programs. So I'm pumped for Cal to be delivering the goods at this point in the year. Is that everybody? Did we get through everybody?
Everybody but Clemson, who...
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was there Friday for game 1 against LaSalle. It is LaSalle, first year back as a program since 2021, but they came into the weekend 8-2. So, they'd been winning games at the very least. I will say it was cool to see David Miller, who is the head coach at LaSalle. He was the head coach when they disbanded the program in 2021. He left, went to Division III, Penn State, Abington, and then Manhattan. But when they reformed the program, he came back, because as he told us on the broadcast, we had him on at the beginning of one of the innings. And I just asked him, like, hey, what drew you back to LaSalle? And he mentions he's a Philly guy. He really wants to build LaSalle into a destination mid-major baseball program in the Northeast. He's got a lot of pride in it, and I just think he's the perfect guy for it. So it was cool to see him back where he played at Clemson, and the reception that he got at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. So he went out to meet with Eric Bakich at home plate before game one, and the PA announced that, hey, this is a Clemson legend, former All-ACC, All-American player. He was on his second and third years were the first 2 years of the Jack Leggett era. So he went to the College World Series with them. Just really cool to see that as a thing. But to speak to Clemson and where they are at this point, they're good, man. Like, I don't know how else to say it. We just kind of like casually stroll through them most weeks in the preseason when we do this. And it's just because, like, I don't know what else you want to say. They're solid. They're really solid. The arm talent across the board is really good. No Aiden Canuck this weekend. So Dylan Harrison, a freshman from Southern California, started on Friday. And he's got the goods. Two-way guy at some point is probably going to get some time in the batter's box with them as well. Just a really good athlete. So he looked good. Tristan McClatty homered in that first game on Friday. He has now matched his home run total from a season ago with that swing, which is pretty remarkable, up toward the top of the order. He played both center field and third base in that game. He's not Cam Canarella in center, but he's very serviceable as a defender there, and he looked awesome at third base down the stretch of that game. Yeah, they're good. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Clemson that I see just from afar, because obviously the South Carolina series was a big one. This one was a series that if they didn't go 4-0, we would probably talk about it more. But yeah, Jaron Purify looked a bit more consistent, which was good to see offensively. Nate Savoy had like a 10 RBI weekend, grand slam to clinch a run rule. I think they have more pop. I mean, we've been saying this the whole week, or the whole season, I should say.
Yeah.
They have more pop in the lineup, more power numbers, even with some of the guys kind of still settling in. And then they're better on the mound. Like they've lost some guys to injury, which hurts. But I just think the arm talent, the level has been raised, and that was kind of a big issue last year, and part of the reason they didn't go as far as they wanted to. So I think it's really encouraging to see potentially a more complete team that can really hit, has a lot of options, it can pitch well on the mound. I think they're set up nicely. I believe they draw Georgia. We'll talk more later in the week.
Yeah, it is them and Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that was a great series last year. Will certainly be a good series this year.
Yeah. So we'll talk later in the week about previews. There's also what's going to be a top 20 matchup, Florida State at Wake Forest. That should be a fun one as well. I wanted to talk something through, and I just mentioned Tristan McClatty. So I texted you yesterday just to get your wheels turning. Of the players who stayed, were in the league last year, stayed with the team that they were with last year, Tristan McClatty got me thinking in terms of who's the most improved player in the ACC this year. Because again, seeing him on Friday, he looks really comfortable at the plate. He's gotten stronger, and thus his power numbers are already where they were last season. And it's a guy who played, I think, 34 games, starting 27 of them for Clemson last year. So it's not that he didn't have opportunities to go yard. He just didn't. And this year, again, he's already hit as many home runs. Defensively, he looked incredible. It occurred to me, this might be the most improved player in our league. So it got me thinking, got my wheels turning about, okay, who else is in that discussion? So who's at the top for you?
Yeah, and it's funny you went with McClatty because when I was pulling up names, I was like, yeah, I think that's probably who I would pick because I think he was also hurt at the end of last
Hmm.
year, which
Yeah,
contributed
he missed
to
the
the
postseason, and I know that's kind of
yeah.
impacted the way he's prepared for this year too.
Yeah, and if you just look at his numbers, I mean, he's barely striking out at all. He's walking way more than he did last year, almost a 20% walk rate. I think he's tapped into more power. Clearly, he's a strong guy. Like he's got the ability to do that. He's running more. Like he's every stat category you can look at. I think McClatty, just off of last year, at 287, like he was a good piece, and they definitely missed him late. But I think if you're talking most improved, like level up, potentially him, just in terms of guys that we did see a lot of last year. Because you could look at like a Noah Sheffield and be like, yeah, didn't play really, and then just gets off to this incredible start. I think Carrier and Chris McHugh are two guys that had great, like McHugh had a great year last year. I think he is so much better this year. Like his ability to actually tap into the power that he has, like he's a big guy. He's just last year, tons of ground balls, hard hit, like liners to ground balls, would find gaps, good average guy. I think I forget what he hit last year, but it was maybe like 360 or something. Like that's a really solid year, but he only hit 7 home runs and he's already hit, I think, 6 this
Yeah.
year. And it's because he's dropping his hands. He made an adjustment. So I think his numbers at the end of the year, we're going to potentially look at and be like, wow, like that was a massive jump. And I think Carrier's already improved on his numbers from last year, and he was also kind of banged up. So that's not exactly a great comp, but he's striking out way less. He's walking more. He's doing similar to McClatty, where it's like, yes, that is the approach that you should have, and you are executing at a very high level. So those were kind of the ones that I thought of when I was on my flight back.
I've got one more. We mentioned his name already. Is Javar Williams on this list?
That's that actually might be the best one. That is a good call. I think I've just taken for granted just because he was. I think the thing with Javar Williams is kind of like a Merrick Houston freshman situation where just unbelievable defender, and you were like, you're valuable even if you don't hit.
Yeah,
Like that
like
was
the
kind of the
assumption
thing.
is going to be he's going to get better at the plate every year, but that's not necessarily what you want to get out of him. Now, I think that role has changed to the point where what he does offensively is central to what Wake Forest does. Like that to me, I'm not even looking at the numbers. Like that to me
Yeah,
signals an improvement.
yeah. He's hitting for power. We're just talking about power a lot, but I think he homered over the weekend. He's still running. Obviously, he's an electric athlete. I think that's a good call. I would actually probably put him above McClatty
Yeah.
because he's hitting leadoff for a very good offense. And he's really he looks great.
Yeah.
And is still a great defender. So
Maybe that's
that's a
the
good one.
ACC. I don't think gives out a most improved award. Maybe that's what we can offer to the ACC baseball zeitgeist at the end of every season. We just give an ACC baseball etc most improved player, and that's it. Just the one award. We don't need any more. We don't need all the pomp and circumstance. But maybe we'll talk offline about that. What we can do to
We'll keep
yeah, we'll
tabs.
keep
We'll
tabs
keep
on
tabs.
most improved and maybe do something for them for sure. So, all right, we're gonna make trivia a thing, and I understand you have prepared some trivia.
I have 2 questions for you, and they are directly related to things I was thinking about when I was watching Duke and Notre Dame. They both tie into that. First, Notre Dame won 2 of 3, so they start ACC play 2-1. Which weekend last year of ACC play did Notre Dame win their second conference game?
Oh, because we just mentioned okay, they got swept.
They started 0-3,
They
so
started
it's
0
not
and
the first
3.
week.
Second ACC game. My recall with stuff like schedules is terrible. So I've got no clue like where they would have gone after Wake Forest or who they would have played after that. Because you're asking it, I'm going to assume it took a while. Was it week 4 of ACC play that they got their second win?
Correct.
Nice.
Week 4. And you know why it was week 4? They were swept at Wake, 1-2 at Clemson, swept by Georgia Tech, and then they took 1 of 2 from Florida State, or 1 of 3,
God,
I
what a
should say.
gauntlet. Holy cow.
Yeah, four regional teams, 2 hosts. Like, that's not fun.
No.
They started. So part of the reason I was thinking about that was because I was like, they were 4-14 last year when they finally got going.
Yeah.
So this is already a much better place to be starting from if you're Notre Dame. So thought that was a fun one. Next one. How far away? This is via the Duke 2020 record book because I couldn't find the 2026. I couldn't find an updated one, but I know it's fine because they did not steal under Pollard.
Right.
Through 18 games, how many more stolen bases does Duke need to set a new program record?
Oh, this is good. Okay. How many do they have currently?
They currently have, so they swiped 10 on the weekend. They currently have 84.
84 stolen bases already?
Yes. I'm going to double check that while you think about this.
Okay. Do they, man, a program record can't be too many more than that.
Let me just check. Yeah, 84 of 92 on stolen bases. RJ Hamilton has 16 already, and the school record is 35. So I have a feeling he may, if he stays healthy, surpass that.
Okay.
They already broke the single game stolen base record, which was 9. They had 12 against Princeton. So how many? How many till they match it?
I'm gonna guess 40 stolen bases until they match the program record.
All right, you're almost double. They are 22 stolen bases away.
Stop.
If the stat is correct, they stole 106 bases in 1981 per Duke game record books. They currently have 84.
They're going to obliterate this record.
Yes, in theory, 2 weeks. But potentially more. Because Notre Dame has a good, Quatrani's a solid arm.
He's tough to run on. But if you keep trying, you're going to steal bases.
Yeah. Well, I'm just double checking this as well. They were 10 for 11 against. Of course, the one game I went to, they only stole 1 base. So I didn't really think about that until I was looking at the stats, and I was like, hang on, they stole 9 in the other. They were 9 for 10 in the other 2.
They're 20 away from the record. Wow.
Yeah. So the individual record's 35 by Andy Perez in 2015.
Okay.
They might have 3 guys break that just if we forecasted rough pace, which is unrealistic because non-conference stats, you get on base more. But Hamilton is 16 for 17. Tyler Albright has 15 stolen bases, which matches his total from last year. Jake Lambdin's a perfect 11 for 11. Obviously, not having Cannon will maybe slow the roll a bit because he was 9 for 9, I believe. But still, 22 away. They're going to destroy the record. And I'm sure clearly this is an identity Corey Muscara wants. So I'm sure this will be kind of like what Interdonato did at BC, where they set the program record, I think in year 2, once he got his guys in there and we're like, hey, here's how we base run. Go run a lot. But yeah, thought that was a pretty crazy stat. I just was wondering, I wonder how far away, because I tweeted something the other day where it was like, they've already stolen more bases in a single year they've already stolen more bases than I think Pollard had ever done in a single year. Or something similar to that. So yeah, pretty crazy stat to end on.
That's remarkable. That's good. I'm glad we're doing this trivia thing because that's enlightening in a way that I would not have been enlightened otherwise. Great stuff. Great stuff. So we'll have a weekend preview later this week. Again, some good series to talk about. But that's it. Unless you got anything else. We covered everybody. We covered every series. We're clocking in right at an hour here, and we'll let everybody get on with their week. So appreciate you listening. ACC Baseball Etc. Give us a like, a review, share it with your friends who are fans of ACC baseball teams. We greatly appreciate that. Reminder to go to d1baseball.com and get your subscriptions right. You do not want to go any further into this 2026 journey with whoever your team is or your conference is without a subscription. And yeah, that's it. We'll talk to you next time. Appreciate you.